There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, a silence that almost hums, like the space between heartbeats. It's the kind of silence that happens when his eyes find you, when his breath catches for just a moment, when he tries to act as if nothing is different, but everything inside him is shifting. You've felt it, haven't you? That unspoken tension, that gentle pull, like gravity, soft but undeniable, as if his soul is speaking, even when his lips stay still. And the truth is, sometimes a man doesn't even realize how deeply he feels, not because the feeling isn't there, but because the language of the heart isn't something he was ever taught. His mind tries to rationalize it, his logic tries to contain it. But love, real love, doesn't belong to logic. It shows up in glances, in nervous hands, in the way he leans closer, then pulls back, then leans in again, caught between wanting to protect himself and being completely unable to stay away. Louise Hay once said, "What I accept about myself becomes how life treats me." And when a woman begins to step into her own worth, when she starts to truly see herself, something magical happens. She becomes a mirror, a reflection of love so powerful, so radiant, that anyone standing close to her cannot help but be affected. And sometimes, that reflection is so intense, so undeniable, that it frightens the very person who longs for it most. You may have noticed how men often struggle to name what they feel. They were raised to believe that love is something you prove, something you provide, something you do. But rarely were they taught that love is something you allow yourself to feel, something you surrender to, and when it happens, when their heart starts remembering what their mind cannot yet understand, the signs are subtle, but they are always there. Marianne Williamson reminds us, love isn't something we search for outside. Love reveals itself when we choose to be the presence of love. And perhaps that's what this is really about. Maybe the man whose silence confuses you, whose distance sometimes feels like rejection, isn't running from you. Maybe he's running from the reflection of his own heart, mirrored back to him through your presence, because you are not just another woman passing through his life. You are something he didn't expect, a sacred mirror, a reminder of what love really feels like when it's honest, when it's safe, when it's free from games and conditions. This is not a video about guessing games or decoding mixed signals. This is about remembering how to listen beyond words, how to notice the sacred language of energy, of presence, of the soul, the language that shows itself in the smallest gestures, in the pauses, in the spaces where words cannot go. And sometimes, the man sitting in front of you is far more in love than even he can comprehend. And sometimes, it begins with something so simple, so subtle, that it's easy to overlook. The way he starts searching for reasons, any reason, just to hear your voice, a question that doesn't really need an answer, a message that could have waited, a random comment about something trivial, disguised as casual conversation. But beneath the surface, there's nothing casual about it. Because when the heart starts stirring, when love begins moving through him in ways he doesn't yet understand, the sound of your voice becomes more than just comfort. It becomes an anchor, a place where his nervous system settles, where the chaos of the world quiets, even if only for a moment. You feel it, don't you? That shift in the air, the way his tone softens, the way the conversation lingers longer than it should. It's not about what's being said. It's about how it feels to be connected to you, about how his body reacts, how his heart calms, how his breath seems to deepen. The second your voice fills the space between him and the rest of the world. And maybe he doesn't even realize why he's doing it. Maybe his mind is still telling him that it's just coincidence, just curiosity, just conversation. But you know better. Because the feminine heart always knows the difference between attention and connection, between convenience and care. When a man is more in love than he can imagine, it often starts here, in the smallest, quietest ways, the way he begins craving your presence, but doesn't yet know how to name it, the way he looks for excuses, when in truth, it's not the excuse he needs, it's you. And no matter how he tries to play it cool, no matter how casual his words may sound, energy doesn't lie. His body knows before his mind does. His heart remembers you, even when he tries to convince himself that it's nothing. But it's never nothing. when the soul starts whispering. And then there's his gaze, the way his eyes find you, without meaning to, the way he watches, not like someone analyzing, but like someone remembering something precious, something familiar, even if he can't explain why. It's not just looking, it's witnessing, quietly, softly, sometimes even unknowingly, as if his soul recognizes something his mind is still catching up to. You've felt it before, haven't you? That moment when you catch him looking, and he quickly shifts his eyes away, pretends to focus on something else, but the softness lingers. The warmth in his gaze betrays him, because the truth is, when a man's heart begins to open, his eyes start doing what his words cannot. They start speaking. They start revealing the parts of him he's not ready to confess. Louise Hay would remind you, what I see in others is only a reflection of what I cultivate within myself. And when you, as a woman, begin seeing yourself as worthy, as valuable, as whole, the world, including him, starts reflecting that back to you. His gaze softens, not just because of what he sees in you, but because of how your presence awakens something within him, something tender, something sacred, something that maybe he hasn't felt in a very long time. And it's never about staring. It's about presence, about how, even in a crowded room, even in the middle of chaos, his attention seems to find its way back to you, again and again, as if the world around him fades, and you become the quiet center of his universe, even if only for a moment. There's a kind of magic in the way his breath changes when he watches you, a stillness that wasn't there before, a quiet reverence, like he's not just seeing your face, but feeling the energy you carry, the warmth, the softness, the strength. And sometimes he doesn't even realize he's doing it. Sometimes he catches himself halfway through and pulls away, shakes his head, pretends to refocus, but his energy lingers. His presence betrays him, because a man who looks at you like that, a man whose gaze softens every time your eyes meet, is not just curious. He's not just being polite. His soul has already started to fall, and the feminine heart knows. It always knows. Because love, even when it's silent, leaves fingerprints. And then something shifts even deeper. It's no longer just about hearing your voice, or the way his eyes soften when they find you. It becomes about understanding, about wanting to step into your world, not as an outsider, but as someone who genuinely cares. You begin to notice how he starts paying attention to the little things, the way you take your coffee, the songs that make you close your eyes and smile, the way your voice changes when you speak about something that matters deeply to you, or when something weighs heavy on your heart. He listens, not just to respond, but to truly know, to understand the rhythm of your life, the subtle language of your soul. This isn't the kind of interest that's surface level. This isn't curiosity born from politeness. No, this is the sacred curiosity of a heart that's waking up to love, even if his mind hasn't fully caught up. Because when a man begins to fall for a woman, something within him longs to bridge the distance between her world and his. He wants to know what makes her laugh, what brings her peace, what memories shaped her, and what quiet battles she still carries beneath her smile. And there's a tenderness in how it happens, a tenderness in the way he remembers details you didn't think anyone noticed, a tenderness in how he adjusts, how he starts considering your comfort, your happiness, sometimes without even realizing he's doing it. Because love, real love, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the way he begins shifting his own routines, his own preferences, just to make space for what matters to you. Not because you asked, but because something about loving you feels natural, feels right, feels like coming home to something he didn't even know he was searching for. And you'll feel it in the way he starts meeting you in the spaces that matter, not just in words, but in presence, in attention, in care. Because when a man starts leaning into your world, when he starts wanting to understand not just what's visible, but what's invisible, the emotions, the patterns, the dreams that live beneath the surface, it's never just curiosity. It's his heart, learning how to love. And even if he hasn't yet found the words, even if he wouldn't dare admit it out loud, his soul has already decided that you are someone worth knowing deeply. And then it begins to show up in ways you never expected, in the smallest, most tender details, in the unnoticed corners of everyday life. Because when love starts to quietly bloom inside a man's heart, it often doesn't arrive wrapped in grand gestures or loud declarations. It arrives in the subtle ways he starts caring for you. It's in the way he notices when you're tired, even when you haven't said a word, the way he remembers that you like your tea a certain way, or how he quietly makes sure you sit where the sunlight touches your skin, because he knows it makes you smile. These are not random acts. These are the fingerprints of a heart trying to hold something precious without even realizing that's what it's doing. And no, it's not always about gifts or grand surprises. It's the way he adjusts the little things, the way he pays attention to the rhythm of your life and starts weaving himself into it, gently, respectfully, lovingly. He notices when your energy feels heavier, when your laugh isn't quite as bright, and without needing to be asked, he tries to lighten it, to soften it, to meet you where you are. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that half the time, he doesn't even realize he's doing it. His mind might still be trying to convince him that it's nothing, that he's just being thoughtful, just being kind. But the feminine heart knows better, because the kind of man who starts tending to the invisible details of your well-being, who starts showing up in the small, quiet moments, is a man whose soul has already begun choosing you. Louise Hay would remind you, what we give, we receive. And in the dance of love, when a man starts offering care without expecting anything in return, when he starts holding space for your comfort, your peace, your joy, something profound is happening. His energy is quietly saying, you matter, you are safe here, you are seen, even if his lips never form the words, because love, real love, doesn't always knock on the door shouting its name. Sometimes it slips in quietly, through the gentle act of paying attention, through the sacred art of caring for someone, as if their happiness, somehow, became intertwined with your own. But sometimes, love doesn't just show up in softness. Sometimes, it reveals itself in tension, in the quiet unease that rises, when he realizes that the thought of losing you feels heavier than he's ready to admit. You've seen it, haven't you? That subtle shift, when someone else's name slips into the conversation, or when your attention drifts, even just for a moment. His jaw tightens, his body shifts, his energy contracts. He won't always say it. He might even deny it, to you, and to himself. But the truth is, when a man feels something deep, when he starts realizing how much you matter to him, a quiet kind of jealousy begins to surface. Not the loud, controlling kind, not the toxic kind, but the soft, reluctant, vulnerable kind. The kind that says, I'm scared. Scared that someone else might see what I see. Scared that you might realize your own worth and wonder if I'm enough. And it's not just about other men. Sometimes it's about time, about distance, about anything that threatens to pull you away from the connection that, whether he admits it or not, has become something sacred to him, something irreplaceable. You'll notice it in the way he suddenly becomes more attentive, or in the way he withdraws, quietly, not knowing how to handle the surge of emotion rising inside him. It's in the questions that come laced with hesitation. Where were you? Who were you with? Not because he doesn't trust you, but because trusting his own heart feels terrifying. And even when he tries to hide it, energy never lies. His presence shifts. His walls come up, then fall down, then come back up again. Because loving you, wanting you, has become something both beautiful and terrifying. Beautiful, because your presence feels like home. Terrifying, because the thought of losing that feels like too much. And the feminine heart, it feels it all. It notices the way he stiffens, the way his voice softens, the way his laughter becomes just a little forced, when the fear of losing you starts whispering in his ear. It's subtle, but it's real, because love, even when unspoken, has a way of making itself known, in both the softness and the tension, in both the longing and the fear. And then, almost without realizing it, his future starts whispering your name, not in the dramatic ways that movies show, not with grand, sweeping promises, but in the soft, quiet weaving of you into everything that's yet to come. You start hearing it in the way his words change. When I go there, we should, one day we could. That's something you'd love. These aren't random phrases. They're the soul's way of mapping a future, where you are no longer an option, but part of the foundation. And the beautiful part is that most of the time, he doesn't even notice he's doing it. His mind hasn't caught up, but his heart, his energy, his unconscious, already knows that life somehow feels incomplete when it's imagined without you in it. It's in the way he starts adjusting his plans, in how his decisions begin to consider your presence, your comfort, your joy. It's subtle, but undeniable. His world begins shifting, bending, expanding, to make space for you. And not because you asked for it, not because you demanded it, but because love, real love, has a way of doing that all on its own. And sometimes he doesn't even realize how deeply it's happening. You'll hear it in the way he talks about places he wants to visit, projects he wants to start, dreams he didn't even know he had, until suddenly, your name slips quietly into them, as if his soul is building a home, and your laughter, your presence, is part of the architecture. Louise Hay would remind you, the point of power is always in the present moment. And in the present moment, whether he knows it or not, his energy is already speaking, already choosing, already whispering, I see you, I feel you, and even if I don't know how to say it yet, you belong here. Because a man in love, even before he finds the words, will start building a future where somehow, some way, you are always included. And then there's the silence, but not the kind that hurts, not the silence of distance or avoidance. This is the sacred kind, the kind that holds space, the kind that feels like presence, like safety, like being fully seen without the need for constant words. You notice it in the way he listens to you, truly listens. Not just hearing the surface of what you're saying, but letting your words, your emotions, your presence settle into him. His eyes soften, his breath slows, his whole body leans, not physically perhaps, but energetically, as if he's making room inside himself, just for you. There's a reverence in it, a quiet devotion that isn't about fixing anything or offering solutions, but simply being there, fully, completely, open, receptive. And maybe he doesn't even realize how rare, how sacred that is, because for most of his life, he was never taught that presence itself is love. And you feel it, don't you? In those moments when you speak, and you realize he's not waiting for his turn to respond. He's not thinking about what to say next. He's simply with you, fully. His silence is not absence. His silence is a container, a vessel, a sacred space where your truth can land, can breathe, can be witnessed. And the most beautiful part is that sometimes, even when the words fade, even when the conversation quiets, his energy stays. His presence holds you, as if he's silently saying, you don't have to be anything else. Just this, just you. And that is enough. Because love, real love, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the way someone stays without needing to fill the space with noise. Sometimes it's in the way someone listens so deeply that you feel more understood in their silence than in 1,000 spoken words. And when a man listens to you like that, when his presence becomes a refuge, a sanctuary, a home, you can be certain his heart has already fallen, whether his mind knows it yet or not. But here's where the sacred truth unfolds even deeper. Because as much as it feels like magic to notice these signs, there's a truth that Louise Hay would gently remind you of. And it's this: you don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself first. And when you truly hear those words, something inside shifts, because suddenly, his love, his attention, his presence, it no longer feels like something you need to earn, or chase, or prove yourself worthy of. It becomes an extension, a reflection, a beautiful mirror of the love you have already begun offering to yourself. Because the moment you stop waiting to be seen and start seeing yourself, the moment you stop hoping to be validated and start validating your own worth, everything changes, not just in him, but in you. And from that place, love flows differently, freely, with dignity, with grace. And this is the paradox. The very moment you stop needing him to choose you is the moment his soul feels safer to lean in. Because there's nothing more magnetic, nothing more powerful than a woman who belongs to herself, a woman whose heart is full, Not because someone filled it, but because she remembered it was never empty to begin with. And suddenly, the love between you shifts. It moves from longing to presence, from waiting to choosing, from hoping to be enough to knowing that you always were. But there's something else, something quiet, something most women don't even realize they're doing. A silent mistake, born not from weakness, but from the deepest ache of wanting to be loved. It's the moment when you start searching for validation in the wrong place, looking for it, in his words, in his declarations, in his confirmations, hoping that if he says the right thing, does the right thing, it will finally quiet the doubt inside your own heart. But the truth is that love doesn't always speak in words. In fact, the kind of man whose heart is opening, whose soul is quietly falling for you, often struggles to say what he feels, not because it isn't real, but because it lives in places deeper than language. And so, while you're waiting for the text, the phone call, the perfect sentence that finally makes you feel safe, you're missing the most honest truth of all. That love is speaking, right there, in the way he watches when he thinks you're not looking, in the way his energy softens when you enter the room, in the way his presence shifts when he feels you pull away, even slightly. It's in the nervous way he asks about your day, pretending it's casual, but needing to feel close to you. It's in the way he remembers things you never expected him to hold on to. It's in the tension in his shoulders when someone else has your attention, and he doesn't quite know how to hide how much it matters. The love you're searching for is already here. Not in the loudness of words, but in the quiet, steady presence of someone whose world, whether he's fully conscious of it or not, is slowly reshaping itself around you. Because love isn't always heard. Sometimes it's felt, in glances, in gestures, in energy, in the way someone chooses to stay. And in the end, it always comes back to this. Louise Hay, in her infinite wisdom, reminds us, everything I want to receive from others, I must first be willing to give to myself. And when you let that truth settle, when you truly breathe it in, everything begins to change. Because suddenly, you stop chasing, you stop waiting, you stop wondering if you are enough, if you are lovable, if you are worthy. You remember, you always were, you always have been. And then, love stops being something you're desperate to hold on to, and becomes something that flows toward you, naturally, effortlessly, not because you begged for it, not because you proved yourself, but because you became the embodiment of the very love you once searched for outside of you. Marianne Williamson would whisper to you, when you become a space of love, you no longer chase love. Love chases you. And maybe that's the most beautiful revelation of all, that this video, this conversation, was never about decoding him. It was always about remembering you, your power, your softness, your worth, your ability to be the sacred space where love doesn't just visit, but where love chooses to stay. Because when he looks at you, when he searches for your voice, when he includes you in his plans, when he holds space for your presence, whether he knows it yet or not, he is already more in love with you than he could ever imagine. The greatest confirmation will never be in his words. It will always be in the way your presence shifts his world, in the way his energy changes, without him even knowing why. And if this touched something deep inside your heart, if it felt like truth, like remembering, like coming home to yourself, take a moment to stay in this energy. There is more waiting for you, a deeper conversation, a next step in your healing, your awakening, your remembering. So if your heart is ready, there's a video waiting right here on the screen, a continuation of this journey, a sacred space, just for you.